Okay, let's just jump right into this. We all have goals, right? Big things we want to accomplish. And what's the first thing we think we need? More motivation, more willpower. But here's a wild thought. What if motivation is actually the very thing that's holding you back? In this explainer, we're going to dig into the science of why that is and what actually works. So let's just start with this question. Think about that cycle of getting super hyped up, starting strong, and then just fizzling out. What if that's not a personal failure? What if it's actually a failure of the strategy? Because it turns out relying on your emotions to build consistency is kind of like trying to build a house on quicksand. And the proof for this really starts with this brilliant study from back in 2001. Researchers in Great Britain got 248 people together, and their goal was simple: build better exercise habits over a couple of weeks. And they split them into 3 groups to see what really, truly makes people stick with something. And the results are, well, they're pretty shocking. The first group was the control group. They just had to track their exercise. About 38% of them worked out. Okay. The second group got pumped up with motivational talks and reading. And their result? A little bit lower, actually, at 35%. But then you look at that third group. All they did was make a simple plan, and a staggering 91% of them exercised. I mean, that's more than double the other groups. And the researchers themselves didn't mince words. They basically said flat out that motivation had no meaningful impact. See, the desire to change was there for everybody. But the thing that turned that desire into actual action, it wasn't a feeling, it was a plan. So, why? Why is a simple plan so much more powerful than a huge surge of motivation? To really get that, we need to look at this internal tug of war that's happening inside our brains every single day. It's a battle between 2 very different systems. You essentially have 2 different minds competing for control. On one hand, you've got your goal-directed system. This is your conscious mind. It's slow, it's deliberate, and man, it burns a ton of energy. This is where your willpower lives. On the other hand, you've got the habit system. This thing is lightning fast, it's automatic, it's efficient. It doesn't make decisions, it just runs programs based on cues it sees in the environment. This battle between wanting something now and working for something later is captured perfectly in one of the most famous psychology experiments of all time, the marshmallow study. It's such a simple test, but it reveals a really deep truth about us. At its heart, the whole study was about delayed gratification. You know, the skill of saying no to 1 marshmallow right now so you can get 2 marshmallows later. And the researchers found, decades later, that the kids who could wait generally had better outcomes in life. Better test scores, better health, you name it. But here's the question. Is it really just about having more self-control? Well, not exactly. A later study added this fantastic twist. Before the marshmallow test, they split the kids into 2 groups. In one, the researchers made promises, about better crayons, for instance, and then broke them. In the other group, the researchers kept their word. And the result? The kids who learned to trust their environment waited 4 times longer. This shows our ability to wait isn't just some fixed trait, it's hugely influenced by whether we believe our efforts are actually going to pay off. And this brings us right back to that exercise study. The successful group, that 91%, they didn't just magically have more willpower. They used a tool that let them bypass the need for it. They basically built trust with themselves using a specific, reliable plan. Now, the scientific term for this is an implementation intention. It sounds really complex, but it's not. It's just a fancy way of saying you decide ahead of time what you're going to do and when and where you're going to do it. You're making the decision before the moment of temptation ever shows up. And the formula could not be simpler. I will do this specific behavior at this specific time in this specific location. So instead of a vague goal like, I'll exercise more, it becomes, I will go for a 20-minute run at 7 a.m. starting from my front door. See the difference? It transforms a fuzzy idea into a clear command. So here's why this is like a cheat code for your brain. First, you're giving the habit a home in the real world. Second, you're making the time and place the trigger for the action, not your mood. You're handing the job over to your automatic habit system. And third, and this is the big one, you eliminate the debate. When 7 a.m. rolls around, you don't have to argue with yourself. The decision's already been made. You just run the script. But making a plan for when and where, that's just the first level. To make change that's truly permanent, we have to go deeper. We need to shift our focus away from what we're doing and onto who we are being. Think about behavior change like an onion. The outer layer is your outcomes. That's the results you want, like losing 20 pounds. The next layer in is your process. Those are the habits you follow, like going to the gym. But the deepest layer, the very core, is your identity, what you believe about yourself. Most people try to change from the outside in. They focus on the outcome and they hope that'll change who they are. But the change that really lasts happens from the inside out. You start by focusing on the person you want to become. The real goal isn't just to run a marathon, it's to become a runner. So how do you do this? It's a simple two-step process. First, just decide on your new identity. Who is the kind of person who gets the results you want? Then, step 2, you prove it to yourself with small, undeniable wins. Every time you write just one paragraph, you're casting a vote for being a writer. These small actions are the evidence that rewires your brain. And when you combine a clear plan with a new identity, you unlock this final level of consistency. A level of discipline that can honestly seem almost unnatural to other people, because it's no longer about effort. It's about automation. This is the point where your habit has moved completely from the effortful, conscious part of your brain to that automatic habit center we talked about. We can call it neural automation. At this level, you don't need motivation. You don't need willpower. The action just happens when the cue appears. This is a profound shift. Your actions become decoupled from your feelings. You can feel lazy, you can feel tired, uninspired, and those feelings become background noise. They lose their power. You don't fight the feeling, you just run the plan you already decided on. To get to this level of automation, there are a few rules that are totally non-negotiable. First, you have to remove choice. The decision is never if, it's only when and where. Second, you protect the cue. The time and place that trigger your habit are sacred. Your feelings don't get a vote. And third, a really powerful one, never miss twice. Missing one day is an accident. Missing 2 is the start of a new, unwanted habit. This all comes down to a fundamental shift in how you see things, and it's captured perfectly in this quote. True discipline isn't an emotional state. It's a statement of identity. It's not about what you feel like doing. It's about what a person like you does. And that leaves us with the final question, really. We've seen that motivation is unreliable, that a simple plan can double your success, and that the most powerful change starts with identity. The question then isn't what you're going to achieve, it's who you're going to choose to be, starting with your very next small action.